Thank you so much. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, HRC. This is a huge honor. And thank you very much to tonight's chairs, Carol, Frank, and Chunkett. This has been an incredible evening. I can't believe how much money you raised, and I've been inspired all night. So my first time at an HRC event was in 2007 when you honored Ugly Betty. The show was a big hit at the time, and on it we had an out gay character, me, a soon-to-be-out gay kid, Mark Indelicato, and a trans woman, played by Rebecca Romaine, all in one show. Rebecca and I accepted the award on behalf of the show in Washington, D.C. at a fabulous event. The other honorees were Matthew Broderick, and then Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. It strikes me today how different our world is than it was then. I don't think we'll be telling any trans stories with straight cis actors anymore, which is fantastic. Tonight, HRC is honoring me, a gay guy who is an actor and plays gay all the time. That's something that didn't exist in 2007, which is probably why they honored Matthew, who indeed is a wonderful straight ally, actor, who indeed blazed LGBTQ trails, appearing in the original Torch Song trilogy and its film version, and of course, marrying Sarah Jessica Parker. Those are both things that gay men want. And well, Nancy Pelosi, she's still raising hell, and she's speaker again. But instead of fighting a right-wing president who was not a friend to the LGBTQ community, ignoring inequalities and quietly passing legislation that endangered us, she's now fighting a right-wing president who is no friend to the LGBTQ community, causing inequalities, and loudly introducing legislation that endangers the community. My, how the pendulum has swung. 8 years of strength and forward motion, stuck in between. 8 years of recognizing and attacking inequality, reversing homophobic and transphobic laws, and passing pro-LGBTQ policy. Don't you feel like sometimes those 8 years are just a blip now? Don't you feel like there are too many fires to put out to even remember what we were fighting for before the unthinkable happened in November of 2016? Don't you feel hopeless sometimes? Well, HRC doesn't. They have an uncanny ability to keep their eye on the ball while things seem to be crumbling down around us. When I spent that wonderful evening with the HRC folks in Washington celebrating our show and our allies, I felt safe. And all the years since at HRC events, on mailing lists, on social media, I watched them keep a keen eye on every injustice, every inequality. I knew that if someone came after us, HRC would have our back. It may sound silly or elitist or basic, but that day, being in a fancy ballroom with Secret Service, third most powerful person in the country, room full of cheering queer people, has given me years of confidence. Not because a lot of money was spent or made, or because I met some famous people, but because we were insiders with the lawmakers. They had our backs. Thanks to the work that HRC has done, LGBTQ people have had their own voice, have had some pretty important ears, and can stand. I look around and I see the folks in this room giving their money, the folks speaking here tonight. We're standing strong on our own. When I was growing up in Texas, I didn't know about the HRC. I remember casual homophobia as a kid, Texas. I don't think there was a Texas chapter of the HRC in the 90s, was there? There is now. 4 dinners in Texas every year. Like Dana and like Nick, my older sister is gay. She's a proud lesbian. She was a proud lesbian, even in the 90s, in Texas. She had a pink triangle on her car. And I remember in 96 or 97, it got keyed. People's cars got keyed all the time, but it was my dad who said, I think it was because of that thing on your car. We didn't entirely know it at the time, but we were a suburban nuclear family in Texas, and we were half queer. In 1997, we watched Ellen come out of the closet on national TV in her hilarious sitcom. My sister remarked that it was a monumental event. My parents agreed. Sure, it wasn't going to be a perfect transition as we grew into an all-gay child family, but somehow, when we watched Ellen together that night, Laura and I knew that we would always have our family. 10 years later, I was on TV myself, playing my own coming out scene to my TV mom, Patti LuPone. My character, Mark, had been in the closet his whole life. His mother was clearly in serious denial, the ascots alone. Also, his mom was Patti LuPone. How could he not be gay? And through a series of sitcom plot twists and antics, Mark was now trying to convince her that Betty, America Ferrera, was his girlfriend. The Suarez family played along and had them over to dinner, and Mom was even buying it. But for Mark, the last straw was when Mom began criticizing Betty's family, all of them, culminating with her nephew, little Justin, then little, actually now he's taller than I am, but she said she can't take any more of this whole family, and that boy, he's so swishy. That's what she said, swishy. Mark finally turned on his mother and implored her, Mom, open up your eyes and look at your own swishy son. That episode did not have a happy ending. That's not true. It did have a happy ending. Mark realized that he had a loving, chosen family in his friends and his coworkers, and he'd be just fine without a mother who didn't accept him. But Mom didn't come back. We made 88 episodes. She never came back. And that's the cold truth for so many of us. I received a lot of letters, people on the street, and MySpace messages. Remember MySpace? Me neither. I got them all the time when we were doing Ugly Betty, and I still get them about Ugly Betty. But one stood out. A young man was watching the mom episode of Ugly Betty with his mom. When it was over, his mom said to him, I hope if I had a swishy son, he wouldn't be afraid to tell me. The boy then told him that actually she did have a swishy son. They hugged and moved on. Another 10 years go by, and I have the great honor of playing Arnold Beckoff in the Broadway revival of Harvey Fierstein's Torch Song. A seminal work, thank you, a seminal work in LGBTQ theater, for which Harvey won a ton of awards and changed the landscape of Broadway. He is dubbed as being the first out gay actor on Broadway in 1982. The idea that there weren't gay actors on Broadway before 1982 is, well, as Harvey would say, oh, Mary. In Torch Song, Arnold's mother calls him unnatural, sick, calls his sexuality a choice, says that if she'd known he'd be like this, she wouldn't have bothered. When the brilliant Mercedes Ruehl, who played my mother, uttered those words in front of our audiences, off-Broadway and then on Broadway, they were met with gasps every performance. People were shocked to hear anyone speak this way to their gay child. Ideas that were essentially innocuous to the Broadway audiences of 1982. Further proof that we'd come a long way. Except, have we? Aren't there still young people all over the place who have parents that call them unnatural, who fight it out over the kitchen table like we did in the third act of the play, who storm out and slam doors? There are. I can tell you right now, there are. They came to Torch Song. They waited after to tell me. They reached out. they sent letters. And for every queer person who came to Torch Song with their loving, compassionate parent in tow, there were others sitting alone in the dark, watching their life unfold on stage. For them and for us, I am thankful for the HRC. I think it's fitting that this award is called the Visibility Award because so many of us feel invisible. For so many of us out there, we don't have a support system, a place to go, a person to talk to. And for those people, they can look to organizations like HRC and see somebody fighting for them. I'm accompanied today, and most days, by my wonderful partner, Ryan Spahn, table 12. He's also an actor and a terrific writer, and we've gotten to collaborate on many projects. You can probably imagine that being in a business like ours can be fickle. I was thinking of another F word, but it's a family show. Having two households with actors can be very tumultuous, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Ryan gets me, he gets what we do, and he's proud of the example that we've turned into. We are, in our community, role models. Together, we made a movie called He's Way More Famous Than You, in which we played a sort of stupid version of ourselves. And at a screening for teenagers in an arts camp, we did a Q&A following the movie. And one of the questions was if we were actually a couple in real life, like we were in the movie. We both got a little bit nervous because... And then we said yes, and they erupted in cheers and applause, and they did that crazy bouncy thing that teenagers do. Last month, we visited the Arts High School in Michigan, where Ryan was a teenager, the place that saved his life and began his trajectory as an actor. Those students cheered too when we told them we were a couple. Now, these are art students, but still, my, how times have changed. There's a show on Broadway right now called Be More Chill, and in it, one of the characters comes out as bisexual. When that happened, the night we saw it, the young people in the audience erupted, cheering a bisexual. I hope somehow the heroes of Stonewall know that the impact that they have had on young people is so strong. The young people have learned. And while we may occasionally have to remind them what happened at Stonewall or what happened during the plague, we may have to remind them of Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, of Harvey Milk and Larry Kramer, of Edie Windsor. They will learn that. They'll learn that, and they will continue to teach us that our possibilities are limitless, that no labels will ever keep us from soaring. I was told when I came out that I'd be pigeonholed as an actor, as gay, as if there's only one type of gay man. I owe a huge debt of gratitude to the great writers of the plays and movies and TV shows that I've been lucky enough to play gay in. And I counted. I've played gay, or queer or bisexual, in 7 TV shows, 6 Broadway and off-Broadway plays, 2 award-winning short films, and 6 movies. These roles were as different, as varied as a father, a journalist, an activist, a literary agent, 1 dog, and, 4 or 5 of them were in fashion, 2 drag queens, and 1 guy who worked in the mall in Barbra Streisand's house. But their souls were all completely different. Their problems their own. I have not been pigeonholed. We are all unique, defined by our own individualism and made better by the freedom to express it. And this community supports each and every one of our singular, fabulous traits or quirks or assets. This June, to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots and to kick off World Pride in New York City, I'm co-producing a theater festival called Pride Plays, We're doing 18 works over 4 days. New plays, old plays, performance art, music, plays by gay men, lesbians, transgender men and women, and gender nonconforming writers. We're amassing all sorts of LGBTQ actors and directors, and stage managers, and we're hoping it's only the beginning of bringing proud plays about the LGBTQ community and starting the conversation about what's next in the theater. We will be reflecting on the incredible work that's been done, discussing what hurdles we still face, and moving forward. I hope you'll all check out what we're doing, either in person, if you're in the city in June, at the Rattlestick Playwrights Theater, June 20th through the 21st, or on the Rattlestick's website, where there's even a place to donate to Pride Plays. How about that? We have a fantastic patron program, and if you join, it helps you secure seating and, of course, helps us to pay our artists. After you've given to HRC, please give to Pride Plays. General seating becomes available next week, but the patron program, that's really the way to go. It's a tiny theater. It's going to sell out. So you can check that out, Rattlestick, or you can my social media. That'll get you to it. Okay, that's enough. Enough plugs. One of my all-time, I'm almost done, I promise. One of my all-time favorite roles was as Prior Walter in the first New York revival of Tony Kushner's monumental play, Angels in America. I was 30 when I played the role, the same age as the character. I was healthy, though, whereas Prior was battling AIDS. In the final moments of the play, Prior speaks to the audience directly for the first time. We've jumped forward in time, and Prior has now been living with AIDS for 5 years. He's weak and frail, not the angel-battling hero that we've seen for the epic 7-hour, 2-part play, but a real, brutal look at an AIDS patient surviving, living. And this is what he says. He says, "This disease will be the end of many of us, but not nearly all. And the dead will be commemorated and will struggle on with the living. And we are not going away. We won't die secret deaths anymore. The world only spins forward. We will be citizens. The time has come. Bye now. You are fabulous creatures, each and every one, and I bless you, more life. The great work begins." And with heroes like all of you who support HRC, and all of you who run HRC and volunteer for HRC, the great work continues. Thank you for this honor. Thank you for having me, and I promise that I will stay visible. Thank you.